You want to know something embarrassing about me? I've never played Hotline Miami. I've heard about it, who hasn't, but from the screenshots, trailers, and reviews, it didn't really seem like my thing, so I never played it. I probably will one day, but for now, I haven't the faintest what the game's about, outside of the line, "Do you like hurting other people?" and the general theme of video game violence. Katana Zero is a game I did play. I've played it quite a lot, in fact, and every time I beat it, I feel something new. Burning curiosity, murderous rage, self-reflection. But for the majority of my playtime, I feel something far easier to explain. 98% positive reviews. Now, I'm a firm believer of the idea that a game doesn't have to be fun to be good, but Katana Zero doesn't even factor into that discussion. It is meticulously designed to be so viscerally entertaining, every single button press is another hit of dopamine. Even if you don't engage further than the surface level, you'll walk away satisfied, because more than anything, this game runs on pure vibes. Feel the beat of the soundtrack, the pulse of your heart, the swish of your blade, and the splatter of blood. It feels good. But there are still a few moments where that loop is broken. Dialogue is mostly skippable. In fact, the real-time conversation system makes it satisfying to skip it. The words literally fall out of the air, there's a sound of glass shattering, and the dialogue itself is usually some variation of "get on with it." Or to put it another way, "let me get back to the game." This even happens to the title card, you literally slash through it, just let me get to the fun part already. And what is the fun part? Fun colors and shapes, don't ask questions. You lost your chance when you shunned the opportunity. Do as you're told and you'll get back to the fun stuff faster. So you do. But then about halfway through, things get weird enough for even the shallow player to notice. I'll be honest, on my first playthrough, I was that shallow player. I skipped dialogue, I mashed through boring bits, I just wanted to get to the good part. But then the masked men showed up. Their existence is never explained. They're real, they're not just a hallucination, but we don't know who or what they are beyond two supernatural forces who really like to fuck with you. They use a lot of words to say very little, simply that in 3 days you will be given a choice, life or death. The protagonist, Zero, wakes up from a dreamless sleep for the first time since you've assumed control, and then things get weird. The screen glitches and you're shown the line the game opens with, only without the "again." This is the first time we've talked about the men in the masks, but it's clear they will come to be important by the time this story ends. We open our eyes in the psychiatrist's office, the place where most of my dialogue skipping happened. I'm super disoriented by this, of course, so I pick a dialogue option to reflect that. It's clear that Zero had a lapse in memory, translated to the player as a time jump. The psychiatrist doesn't react to our clear disorientation, so I call him out on it, with which he responds, Suddenly, we're in an unknown location with a new song playing. I try to fight my way out to play the damn game, but it loops back whether I live or die. The loops get faster and faster until the screen goes black, and we're given dialogue from an unknown character. I assumed it was Zero, he's the only one in frame after all, but the voice knows things that he couldn't possibly know. The time counter says negative 694 days remain. This scene is taking place nearly 2 years after what we've played through. We jump again to Zero begging for cash, spouting that he killed 6 men in the war when we know he's capable of far more. And then as suddenly as it started, it ends. We jump to Zero getting his medicine, time slowing for a moment before fading back to normal. What just happened was supposedly withdrawal. Katana Zero is a game that doesn't like to explain itself. In the roughly 5 hours of gameplay a casual audience will experience, the game throws around so many details, so many throwaway lines that imply a lot of things, but are never elaborated upon, doomed to become some footnote in the wiki. This scene is a perfect example of this. You know the unknown location we warped to? That's actually the next level. A sharp eye and sharper mind can pick this up mere seconds after the withdrawal symptoms cease, but it took me far longer to piece it together. Everything else is a result of what the medicine does to its victims. Only the psychologist, a deeply morally compromised character in his own right, even calls it medicine. Otherwise it's the drug, or a wartime combat drug. The crazy part is, if you connect the dots, you can figure out that the wartime combat drug this purple-haired guy is working on is the same work in progress he used on your neighbors, which is the same medicine you've been getting every day based on the initial symptoms, and this is all coming from plot points that happened before you even learned the drug's name. Katana Zero's story is a mystery that is so perfectly paced and presented, you don't even need the knowledge of future events to understand the meaning behind every vague comment if you're observant enough. Even this sequence of glitches, where it seems the whole point is to disorient the player, can be explained by Zero's precognition. It's mentioned only once at this point, so a lot of players didn't think about it all too much, but we've been seeing it used this entire time. The actual game of Katana Zero, the slicing, bullet time, explosion spit, it's all just a series of visions, glimpses into possible futures had by Zero. With the knowledge that Zero can see into the future, knowing that he can't even tell if these visions are real or not makes everything about this make sense. Every part of this sequence is something that either can happen, will happen, or could have happened. Zero will bring his trail of blood to this mansion, we will have this conversation with V, and in a future game he might even walk through a church while talking to someone who speaks an Avant we will encounter later. And if Zero was never given the drug, he probably would have ended up here, a washed up drunk who brags about killing a measly 6 people. And if he got desperate enough for the drug, if he went even deeper into withdrawal, he very well might have murdered the psychiatrist, the girl, anyone who got in between him and his next fix. Another symptom of Chronos' withdrawal is lapses in memory, so he could do this and not even remember it. How many other atrocities are hidden in those vast spans of amnesia? We are left to make assumptions from what we know. And from what we know of Zero, I don't think he was a saint in those times. After the mansion level, we get caught in a trap our precognitions somehow couldn't detect and are captured by V. What follows is a scene that both confirms how Zero's powers work and manages to be a condensed time loop plotline. I personally really like time loop stories, so this was probably my second favorite bit of the game, right after the crazy withdrawal timeline fuckery. This one scene goes through all the motions you'd expect, starting off confused in a no-win situation, gradually learning what to say and what to do to change the outcome even slightly, even acting nonchalant about knowing things you shouldn't be able to, and eventually pulling off a perfect loop that manages to be extremely cathartic and goddamn horrifying all at the same time. Once we learn the name of the drug, Chronos, in a previous loop, we psych V out with that information and immediately start bragging about its effects. We start exploiting how V's idolized us for how many people we've killed, hitting this sadistic waste of skin where it hurts him most. His ego. He gets so pissed off he murders the guy he was supposed to interrogate because not only would killing Zero do nothing, it would prove that we're right. In every aspect that V cares about, we are better than him, and it's not even close. We're leagues better at killing, we're more ruthless than he will ever be, and we're infinitely better at surviving. Tie us to a chair, and the second we won't be instantly killed for it, we escape, retrieve our sword by killing its protector with a fragment of said chair, and proceed to play the coolest level in the game. From the very start, the game sets out to achieve a certain aesthetic. The repeating skyline tinted with the amber hue of sunset, the seemingly endless highway we speed our motorcycle down, even the music is the most generically synthwave song I've ever heard. It's literally called Driving Force Neon Fog. I mean, come on. Still bangs, but the instrumentation still bears a suspicious resemblance to Blinding Lights and other 80s styled synthwave hits. Not only is the killing more brutal, it's way more satisfying. Every slice causes your enemy to ragdoll, and the bike they leave behind can be used as a ramp, plus there's little skidding sounds when you land, and come on, what's cooler than being John Wick with a katana? John Wick with a katana? On a motorcycle. It all must be cliche if this wasn't exactly what the game's been doing since the second you hit start. The level ends with a fight against a helicopter where you reflect grenades, dodge missiles, and cheese grate this subhuman scum on hard asphalt. Even at the doors of death, the guy won't stop talking shit, so when his limbs are sliced off and he finally stops bragging, it doesn't even matter we aren't the one doing it. His screams are music to our ears, and stop! The game never calls you out on this, by the way. It doesn't even call Zero out. This objectively horrific act is satisfying closure on the game's largest subplot. Some people, hopefully most people, will hate V at this point for more humanitarian reasons. The first thing he does is kill a man with an explosive collar simply to entertain him. He tortures and kills your next door neighbors for being too loud because he idolizes you. 2 innocents were killed in the most horrific way possible because of your influence on him. So at the first chance you get, you call him what he is. Fucking subhuman. But over the course of the game, as you encounter him more and more, your motive could change. He starts to wrong you personally, not by committing more subhuman acts, but by getting in the way of the game. His boss fight is unwinnable. The best you can do is hit him enough to get an achievement before Snow comes in and rescues him. When you get the jump on him, he stops you with a dialogue box and deflects everything you throw at him. He appears from behind you and tries to shoot you in the back. He captures you by tricking your precognition, something that should be impossible, or at least it would have been if Zero's dosage wasn't screwed up at the time. He makes you sit through the longest stretch of dialogue in the game, refuses to die when you slice him one last time, before finally getting his comeuppance. Katana Zero's core gameplay is built upon one simple rule. Slice someone once, and they will die. This includes Zero. He's just as fragile as the enemies, which makes it feel great to get all of them in a perfect loop. V does not conform to this rule, and this isn't cheap writing, an inconsistent standard set by people who didn't care and just wanted a strong villain. No. It literally feels like V is cheating. He's not on Flowey's level when it comes to rewriting the rules of reality, but he does it a lot more. V isn't just a sadist whose presence in this world is unacceptable, he's a barrier between the player and the fun colors and shapes. He forces the player to ask themselves, do I hate him because he's human scum, or because he annoys me? Because despite all the people he tortures, your annoyance is the only real wrong he committed. And in-universe, that sentiment is mirrored by Zero. His character is still somewhat malleable just by being the protagonist, controlled by the player, but dialogue here is less of a tree, more of a whisk. Branching paths that are subtly different, but ultimately come to the same conclusion. Zero is still his own character, and to demonstrate this, one of the earlier dialogue sequences presents you with another ultimately pointless choice, only to rip away even the resemblance of your agency in Zero's life. No matter what option you choose, Zero kills effortlessly and dispassionately. Does this make him better than V, who kills arduously and gleefully? Does the motive even matter when you killed more people in one night than he has in his whole life? Then why does it feel far worse to bash someone's skull in until long after they're dead than it does to quickly and efficiently turn hundreds into nothing more than shredded biomass? The answer, unsurprisingly, is how much you care, and by extension how much Zero cares. The power fantasy at the forefront of Katana Zero's gameplay loop is based on the popular aesthetic of a cold-blooded killer. Take media like Hitman, Dishonored, or Assassin's Creed. These games don't just feature killing as the central objective, their entire design revolves around making these kills feel slightly detached. Like, obviously they offer reasons as to why your targets deserve to die, but at the end of the day, it feels cool to be able to do something so devastating as naturally as breathing. Hitman's a shining example here. It feels incredible to just walk into a level, shoot your target, and walk out. It's a power fantasy that's satisfying on a primal level. If you're the caveman that can kill the big mammoth in a way that makes the task seem beneath you, congratulations, you won evolution. Beating overwhelming odds while acting like you do this all the time just feels good. Zero's detachment from the havoc he wreaks is explicitly stated by Snow. So, when you start to care, when you start to hate, to put unnecessary effort into what you usually do without thinking, it doesn't just feel bad, it feels wrong. It breaks the unspoken agreement you have with this fun action game. It'd be like if the dart monkey in Bloons tower defense grabbed a red balloon and proceeded to slowly and deliberately tear it into 16 equal swatches of rubber. You don't do that. Not even the arguably more disturbing death of Leon von Albensleben. He may rapidly age and disintegrate while in clear anguish, but not only is his name Leon von Albensleben, his death is just like everything else the game has proven itself to be. Short, visually stunning, and satisfying. So why does Zero reject his last assignment? Well, it's because he finally managed to care about something. It could be argued that this was the case from the very beginning. It's no coincidence his recurring nightmare involves the death of a child. Like most of the game's more psychedelic sequences, this can be interpreted a number of ways. From the first nightmare, we're made to assume Zero is the child. After all, this is his nightmare, and you do control the kid for a few seconds. Why wouldn't that be the case? Well, the literal explanation is that the child isn't important. It isn't even him. He's just another kid from a Cro-Mag village he was sent to slaughter. But in a more symbolic context that dreams tend to take on, this is him. A child with a family and a past. Taken at a young age and turned into an amnesiac junkie with a kill count in the triple digits and a poison robbing him of everything he once had the capacity to care about. And when he finally gains enough lucidity to remember, he can't bear to do that to another. And when Zero cannot kill, the child is all that's left.